Good morning. This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for thoughts, theories, and queries. And for those of you who have not listened to Steve in the past or gone to his website page on New Cleveland Radio, I'm going to recommend you do because one of the things I get out of this podcast is the ability to step back, listen, and look at things maybe in a way that I wouldn't have done before. And I think personally, that's the way our world can get a lot better because too many of us are sort of like, that's the way I've done it, that's the way I'm going to do it, and there's no room for improvement. So, welcome, Steve. And for those of you who don't know, um, we record this very early in the morning because Steve is out on the West Coast. So, my first question before we even get started, how safe is it out there with all the fires?
The fires are more in Northern California, and I'm more in Southern California.
Okay.
Um, and a lot of times we'll get a lot of the smoke from those fires because this is it's fire season all summer long. It's fire season all up and down California. But this particular fire is kind of the wind is blowing more to the east and a little bit north. It's bad. It's bad. But usually we have our share in Southern California too. We've been pretty lucky this season to avoid a lot of bad ones. But yeah. My sister lives up in Vacaville, up in kind of by San Francisco. So she's gets a lot of the smoke. Gets a lot.
Absolutely.
They smell it every day. It's just like smog for them, right? Yeah.
Well, I wanted to bring it up because so many of us, no matter where we live, we don't really understand where some of these conditions are happening. And I remember when I moved to Ohio, when my mother would call me, any weather report she heard of anywhere in Ohio, she thought it was Cleveland.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
sometimes it'd be like raining. Don't know
Right.
what you're talking about. Snowing? No, it's not. So sometimes it's nice for us to check in with our podcasters to see what their life is like around them. So,
Yeah. Right. Well, right now it's just dark. It's
okay.
dark. That's what it is right now.
Well, it's early in the morning too. So,
True.
so today we're going to talk about three of your queries. So tell us about the first one.
Um, well, I kind of had usually I would group them together in a theme. I tried to come up with a theme name, a title for the ones that I talk about. I had a little trouble this time. I thought maybe frustration, maybe incredulity, because some of these are just really, kind of tough to believe. I settled on cracking under pressure because that's what these people did. They caved, they conformed. Um, so that's what we're going to chat about today. The first one is theory number 24, and it's called "You Can't Say That." This one I wrote about a year and a half ago. So the things that happen in there are kind of from then, and I commented on it back then too. So I just kind of keep that in mind.
Okay.
All right, this is from the Too Bizarre to Be True, but Still Is department. A prominent liberal city in Northern California, Berkeley, is planning to ban the use of gender-specific words in the city's municipal code. Manhole will now be maintenance hole. Manpower will now be human effort. And the last and certainly most inane, the terms fraternity and sorority will now be collegiate Greek system residents. I really wish I were making this stuff up because it would be pretty funny. But since it's for real, it's just kind of ridiculous. The rationale for this change is legitimate. They say that by eliminating any gender preference language within the municipal code, that will promote equality. Other words that apparently strike fear into the heart of the townsfolk of Berkeley are brother, changed to sibling, maiden name, changed to family name, repairman, changed to repairer, and ombudsman, changed to ombuds. Rather than rant and rave about how ridiculous some of this is, I thought I would take the high road and merely continue their list of gender specific terms with some terms that I think they left out. I think Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts should be changed to nature oriented badge earning youths. Boysenberry, which is invented kind of by crossing a blackberry, a raspberry, and a loganberry, should be changed to hybrid berry. Bus boy should be table scrap collector. Showgirl should be topless burlesque actress. The words woman and female got to go because one contains the word man, one contains the word male. So that should be changed. Those should be changed to a person with childbearing abilities, but who certainly doesn't have to if they don't want to. And human beings got to go because it contains the word man, human. Lots of choices for this one. Carbon units, bone bags, monkey kin, or my personal favorite, meat puppets. I'm not unsympathetic to the cause of equality, but this is just a little nuts.
I'm finding it interesting because I'm noticing on a lot of the Zoom meetings that I go to, they start out by asking, "What is your pronoun?" And I understand there are some people who don't consider themselves male or female, but I'm not sure it's important. I mean, it is to them, but I don't find it important. I just want to know them as Steve or Mabel or whatever their name is. I don't have to know anything else because I will learn that when we start communicating.
Right,
Um,
right,
and I just wrote a blog myself this morning that basically said it's time that we just start being aware and accepting that we can be different.
right, right.
And that's what this is all about. And, um, you know, when you first sent this in and I put it on the website, my first thought was um, we are at a point where we are so afraid of using words because
Right,
who are we going to insult first?
right.
And, I've been using certain words for 71 years of my life, and it's really hard. Not that I'm not willing to change, but it's difficult not to use them anymore.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's really more about respect than anything else. I mean, you're cordial with people. You respect who they are and what they want to consider themselves. That's great. That's fine. It's just we get so caught up in the words and the titles and like you said, not saying the wrong thing. And it just gets out of. There's almost no way that you can not offend somebody at one particular time somehow, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's almost impossible now. I remember back in the day when the term mailman, they started saying, well, we have a lot of female letter carriers. We shouldn't really say mailman man anymore. You should say letter carrier, something like that. And I got it. I said, if I'm a woman, if I'm a female letter carrier, then I don't want to be called a mailman. So that just made sense to me. But why not just say, male woman, mailman, male woman, or fireman, firewoman, policeman, policewoman. I remember there was a show with Angie Dickinson. I think
Yes,
it was called Policewoman.
right.
There it is. Okay, and everybody got it. It made sense. Nobody was like, "Oh my God, policewoman." It just made sense. Fine, she's a female police officer, right? Um, but it's just you can't. It's almost like you can't win. Um, I saw the other day that your beloved Cleveland Indians had to change their names.
Right.
They're now the Guardians, or the next year, I guess they're going to be the
Yes.
Cleveland Guardians. Um, I mean, I remember when that topic came up for Cleveland, and it seemed to me that they were more upset with the logo than the actual name.
Right.
the Indians, okay, that's fine, but the logo, that Chief Wahoo guy, I mean, he was cool. I mean, he's been the guy for a long time, but they didn't like that. They were going to just kind of change the mascot. I didn't realize that they needed to change the name too.
Well, I don't think so much it was that they needed to, but I think they were trying to say, look, we don't want to offend anybody. And if using this name offends anybody, um, then we need to be more respectful. And one of the things that I've said all along, the field that they play at um, was named Jacobs Field when it was built. It is now Progressive Field,
Right,
and
right.
it has been for a while. And most of us still say we're going to the Jake, okay?
That's funny.
Because that's that's what it was when it was built, and I know it's Progressive Field.
Right.
And I think that will stay the same as they change their name. Um, but out of respect, we do make changes. And it's okay to make those changes, but I think we have to do them for the right reasons and not just to give into something that has meaning for now, but may not last.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It may not, 50 years from now, 40 years from now, somebody will say, well, what you did was stupid, or what you did in itself was wrong somehow, ethically, morally wrong, and it needs to change back.
Right.
You offended other people by trying to keep from offending these people. Um, I mean, I can, Washington Redskins. Okay, that is offensive, and I can see how it can be. Certainly, we're all used to it, but I can see why that needed to change. And funny, they still haven't changed it. They're still the Washington Football Club. But I mean, you could take this as far as you want to. The Pittsburgh Pirates. Pirates are bad people. I mean, they rape, they loot, they pillage. Even today, I mean, you can't go in certain waters because
Right.
actual pirates could board your boat. I mean, that could be considered offensive. The Buccaneers, same thing. You could just take this as far as you want to go. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough for us that have been around and we're used to these terms. And I have no problem with change and equality and that. It's just the reaches they take it. And somehow if you want to change something, you're justified. Period. Just by virtue of the fact that you believe it's offensive, even if your group is 1/10 of 1% of any given area. Okay, that's fine. Everything else has to change to accommodate that.
Right.
It's tough. It's tough.
So now I know where you get your thoughts, theories, and queries from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just open my eyes. I look outside. And I go, oh my
Yeah.
god.
So what are we going to talk about next?
Okay, the next one is Theory 30, along similar lines. This one, theory number 30, called plant burgers. All right, I don't know. I thought about it when I was thinking about this. Out here, it's a big deal. Okay, and it has been for, I don't know, year and a half. Plant burgers versus
Right.
vegetarian food. A lot of vegans, a lot of veggies out here. Um, but I don't know out there. I mean, are plant burgers, like, did they make all over
Yep.
the news, make a big deal about them? Yeah.
They have. And, in some areas, some restaurants, they are, they're the feature. In others, you can ask for one and it's like, not going to get it here.
Right,
Um,
right.
so we aren't as progressive as California. Um, but for all our listeners, I love them. So,
Mm,
hey.
okay, well, there you go. Hope this doesn't offend you.
Oh, it won't. It won't.
Okay. Okay, this is a short one. This one's plant burgers. Please, can we stop the plant burger fanfare now, please? You call it what you want. Beyond Burgers, Impossible Burgers, both trademark names for their respective plant burger. And you can tout that it tastes more like meat than any other non-meat patty on the market. But it's just another veggie burger, people. No more, no less. Side note, why are people who are so against eating animals always trying to find things that to eat that taste just like animals?
You are, I mean, that last comment is so true.
Hmm.
Um, and when I said at the beginning, I love them, um, I love them as a veggie burger. Okay. Not,
Yeah,
I don't eat it because I want a beef burger. If I wanted a beef burger or a chicken burger or a turkey burger or whatever, that's what I would eat. Um, and so, again, when you look at this topic, um, I do have friends and acquaintances who are so into being vegans, and that's okay. But just because you're into it doesn't mean the rest of us have to be.
yeah, it's true. And obviously, I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan. Um, but it just, if when I first saw this, that's okay. There's got to be something like really different about this that they would call it a plant burger as opposed to a veggie burger. And I looked it up and I tried to find, and I guess there is, they use certain parts of the plant, the starch or the protein or something. Um, but they're still using the plant. It's
Right.
plant. It's a vegetable. It's something like that. So it just kind of bugged me that it seemed to be more about advertising than anything else. They okay, all of a sudden they want this to be popular. They want people to buy them, obviously. So they call it something different. Maybe they think the general population's kind of burned out on the word veggie and veggie burgers. They need something new and different. It's the same thing. I mean, it's practically the same thing. I mean, I've never had one. I'm glad you like them. That's great. It just kind of bugged me that that they were trying to pull something over on us that by pulling something out and calling it something a little bit different. It's all of a sudden a new product and groundbreaking and earth shattering, and it just kind of pissed me off.
Well, and the interesting part is it is not new. I remember back in the 70s, I was a newlywed in my first marriage, and I was helping my ex-husband get through dental school. And they were selling some sort of soy meat back
Hmm.
in the early 70s.
Mhm.
It was supposed to taste like steak or whatever. And it fit you know, our budget.
Right,
We couldn't
right,
afford steak, but we could
right,
afford, and I don't remember how long it lasted. I don't think it lasted even as long as the Impossible Burger has
right,
lasted.
right,
But, um, for them to tout now that this is something new, okay? No, we've been experimenting for a very long time.
right.
Um, and what I remember of those pseudo meats, um, they were tough, they didn't have much flavor, um, but they just fit the budget. So, you know, and they didn't kill us.
Yeah, right,
That's
right.
important.
Yeah, and you mentioned something a few minutes ago. They seem to be trying to, that whole industry seems to be trying to get people that eat meat not to anymore. Maybe because it's healthy and it's health conscious. I'm sure it's all because they want to sell their product. But I don't, on the meat industry side. They advertise meat products, this and this. I don't see them bashing um, people that are eating vegetables
Right.
uh, as much as the opposite, as much as the vegetarians and vegans and that are bashing the meat eaters. I think that's more, they're trying to convince us a lot more than we're trying to convince them not to do that. I have a lot of vegetarian friends, and it's fine, but every now and then some of them, we'll go to the same restaurant, we'll be eating something, and they'll make a negative comment about what I'm eating, and it's like, what do you care? I mean, you're eating your stuff, I'm eating mine. I mean, I
Exactly.
I don't care what you eat, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal to them. And then, they can't, some of them can't stand the idea of somebody eating meat or, something that used to be alive. Um, Yet they really want it to taste like that.
Yep.
It just
Exactly.
kind of drives me a little
Exactly.
crazy.
Well, and along that note, you know, people who are, I guess I want to call them naturalists, okay, who want to go back. to the earth and um, make that, the focus of life. Um, Sometimes I think they don't understand others, maybe like yourself, who you cherish the earth, but that's not your focus. Okay.
Right.
Um, and it's like, don't get mad at me for um, eating meat. That's how I was brought up. That's what I know. And that's what I like. But you know what? You can eat your veggies and you can grow them in your own garden and you can do your own composting. And that's terrific.
Right.
That's
Right.
where we have to come together and say, you know what? We can be different, but still get along.
Right. Right. And maybe the numbers of vegetarians are increasing, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's good for the environment, good for the planet. I don't know. Eh, and that's fine if the world slowly changes that way, and all of a sudden most of the population is that way, and eventually maybe they'll phase it out. I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of, if whatever happens is going to happen. But I just don't want to be kind of forced out. you know
Absolutely.
you
I
know
get it. So we have
uh,
one more today. What number?
yeah, the first one was a little comical. The second one was uh that a little sneaky, but this last one just kind of pisses me off. Okay,
Okay.
this one. Okay, so here we go. This is theory number 20, and again, this is another one I wrote about a year and a half ago. So um, the situation that happened was back then, and then I wrote about it back then. It still applies today, but just from a time standpoint. This one's called sustainable versus wild caught. What a crock. 6 months ago, my usual haunt for fish tacos started advertising sustainable fish. According to the little sign they had posted, they were proudly doing their part not to promote overfishing and environmentally destructive fishing methods of fish caught in the ocean. Farms, fish farms. That was the answer. A few months later, the same seafood joint started advertising wild caught fish, salmon, cod, trout. According to the new sign they put up, which was probably just on the back of the old sign, they were proudly doing their part not to promote environmentally destructive fish farming practices, including water pollution and the threat to local flora and fauna. Are you kidding me? Can a restaurant be more hypocritical? Pick a side, why don't you? The irony is that there are just as many good and bad things about catching fish in the ocean as there are about herding them and rounding them up on fish ranches. It's a wash. Besides, I heard a rumor the other day that focusing just on the fish that taste good could be considered racist because not all fish get the same opportunity to get seasoned and served up on someone's plate. Um, Maybe a little cynical at the end there. Maybe that another theory, for another time. But I just I couldn't believe it. I don't like when people try to kind of put things past you and kind of make you think that you're stupid. But I could not believe that they did the flip like that. It's completely opposite concepts on how to get fish, sustainable or wild caught, and to say that one is good and one is bad, and then turn around and say that no, that one's good and that one's bad. It's same restaurant, same signs. I couldn't buy, and like an idiot, I still go there, but still it pissed me off. I just how do you do that? How do you do that? And I guess that's why advertisers make a lot of money, because people still go there and nobody protests, with signs outside saying you change your mind,
Right.
but yeah, I'd walk in there and I'd see the signs, and I'm thinking, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? Just change your mind like that. And again, I have nothing against sustainable foods or or wild caught or anything like that. I'm not making a social commentary about we should be fishing however you want to fish or farming however you want to farm. But I don't know.
Yeah, I've had this question about these fish farms myself because you're not raising the fish in their natural environment.
Yeah.
So you are changing something about them,
Hmm.
um, which I have heard through some, sources that fish at a fish farm um, are much milder in taste than those caught out in the ocean or lakes
Hmm.
where they're living amongst their natural habitat.
Hmm.
Um, and this sort of would make sense because at a fish farm, everything is sort of regulated, you
Right.
know, the
Right.
water temperature and the food that they're
Right.
eating. And when you're harvesting them, they obviously get to a certain size or whatever. Whereas
Hmm.
when you go fishing out in the ocean, okay,
Right.
whatever nabs at your net or at your hook.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. My father in law was an avid fisherman.
Hmm.
Um, and he would go down to Florida uh, every winter and he'd spend time on his boat out on the ocean fishing. And sometimes he caught something and sometimes he didn't.
Hmm.
Um, and when he did, he would bring it home to my mother in law, who hated fish. The look of
Wow.
it, the smell of it, the taste of it. Yet she was the one who cleaned the fish and
Yeah.
she's the
Wow.
one who cooked it. Um, you know, as I look at this theory, it's like so much in our lives that we're trying to change to convince ourselves this is a better way of doing it. And I sometimes wonder if everything really needs to be changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And this kind of proves that. Um, Sustainable, it was a very popular word for a long time, and when it came to chicken, free range versus, yeah, it was a horrible practice. They had them all cooped up in this one place, and they were raising chickens like that, and um, a lot of it was unethical, or um, really hard on the chickens, just being in this little box or whatever,
Right.
so they kind of started changing that a little bit, free range chickens, and I got that. um, so I kind of thought the same thing. Well, then that type of enclosed environment is like an unhealthy, or um, not a good way for the chickens to live, right? And so I got that. So why all of a sudden was it okay for fish to be cooped up in that same? Did they have different feelings? I mean, um, and then to just say, well, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do wild caught, and that's what's hip, wild caught, you know. And it seems like again, what you said, uh, people are trying to change things for the better, and in their minds this group says, okay, that's what I'm going to target, and that's what's bad, and that's what we're going to change. And then maybe a few years later somebody else says, well, that wasn't that bad, this is what's bad, and maybe we'll change you back, and then but we'll focus on something else. A lot of things in the world need to be changed. A lot of things are unjust and unfair, and equality is correct. You want to have that kind of even playing field, but you can just see it out there, people bouncing around from one thing to another, um, hoping something will stick.
Right.
And well, I'm jumping on this bandwagon. Well, that one's not happening right now. I want to go to the next. So yeah, it's frustrating. This group of theories for me was I wanted to put together because it just, those type of things just really bug me. Maybe their thought is okay, the thought is correct, the concept is correct, the idea that they have is good, but what's coming out, it just seems like uh, it's just so random. Well, let's try this. What is that? How about if we try this? How about if we try that? Just like willy nilly. And if it doesn't, then well, okay, I didn't really mean that. What I really meant was this.
Right.
It's just hard for us that are just watching it, sitting back, say, okay, so now that I can say this and I can't say that, okay, but now, okay, wait a minute, you changed your mind, so I have to change my mind. I can't say that, and you can't say, it's tough, and I'm an old guy, I mean, I get it, I'm set in my ways in a lot of ways, but I'm also very, um, I'm very willing to change and work with anybody. you mentioned respect. I think that's the issue that we need to start from, is just respecting each other. You can call me, you know, sir or Mister, or that guy. Pretty soon those words are going to go away too. I
Right.
guarantee you, Mister and Mrs. are gone, are soon gone. And to say that is going to be offensive, right? So I don't care what you call me. I'm the same person, and you know I relate and communicate the same way. Um, so if that's what's got to change, I guess that's what's got to change.
Well,
But
it's interesting. Over the last 36 hours, it was the Day of Atonement for those of us in the Jewish religion, and the holiest night and day in the Jewish religion. And I was brought up in a very traditional home. And I believed when I was a little girl, I was going to believe the exact same way then as I am now. And, things have changed. We have grown, and the internet has brought religion and so many other things right to our doorstep. And with COVID, not everybody is going to their house of worship. They're doing services online. And so for the second year in a row, I did as well. And as I was doing that, I was thinking about what I personally thought was right and wrong. And I caught myself. And it was like, things aren't the same as they were when I was 10 years old or even 20 years old.
right,
And there may be pockets of areas where people don't really change with the time. But I realized as I was doing this online service, um, I had more respect for myself and others because I didn't have to go dress up and look apart to be accepted.
right, right,
Um, I didn't have to take a long drive to wherever it was. I didn't in tradition, at the Jewish synagogues and temples, if you're not a member, you have to buy a ticket to go pray for the holidays.
wow,
And I didn't have to do that this year.
right,
Um, and but just looking at all the changes, it's like we all need to embrace what's important to us, but don't put it on anybody else. The same way my husband and my son um, sat in for part of the service on the first night yesterday. They both went to work. Um, they aren't Jewish, did not expect them to participate. And that's okay. They do
right,
their thing, I do my thing, and we come together as a family when we can do our thing.
right, right.
And that's what your thoughts really are telling all of us.
Yeah, that. I'm hoping that that's what comes across. I'm hoping not to come across as insensitive, or behind the times, or you know like I said, just some old fogey that wants things to stay the same always, and never change. um, I just like to point out things that are contradictive, and um, that just take things a little too far. I understand what's happening now, and a lot of changes are good. A lot of the changes are good, but that doesn't mean traditions are bad. And I think we're getting fed that a lot. In baseball, everybody, they want to change things. They want to change things, and whenever they do, they say, "Oh, those idiot traditionalists uh, that wanted to say the same as it was in 1907." Like, it's a bad thing. You're in it. It's a bad thing if you want to keep tradition, and it's a good thing if you want change. Well, sometimes, yeah, but not always, not in every situation. And to just pick baseball and say, okay, for baseball, change is good, tradition is bad. We hear that all the time, or I do. I mean, I listen to a lot of
Yeah.
sports talk radio, and I like a lot of sports and things, but God, I hear that all the time. And some things can change, and it's great that they do, and some things don't need to. But they want but they still want to. And it's going to be a battle, and it has been a battle. And I'm not sure how it's going to work out. I mean, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, what I can't even imagine what it's going to be like, because everything is cyclical, right? I mean,
Right.
it could go back to the 40s and 50s, the mindset of people. Yeah, we have no idea. But yeah, we live in a definitely in a transitional time, and it's kind of fun for me just to poke fun at it a little bit, or you know vent a little bit. So I'm glad you enjoy it.
I do enjoy it, and I know we are gaining more listeners as time goes on. And just for our listeners out there, um, we are now sort of joining forces with an organization. Um, they're a podcasting organization, and some of their podcasters are going to be showing up on our shows, and some of our podcasters like Steve may be invited to be a guest on their shows. And the whole idea is that terrestrial radio really is going away. I'm not going to say it's going to be 100%, but it is slowly going away. And what people are looking for are podcasts like this that say, let me think about something else for a few minutes. Let me get a new perspective on it. Um, or why does Steve talk about these things? Um, and I just welcome you all to keep following us, um, and go to Steve's page. I will put it in the show notes because you've got some really good theories out there, and they don't follow an order. They're not numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So you just got to scroll through them.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
And
You too.
we will be talking to you next month, which is October.
Sounds good. Looking
Have a
forward to
great
it.
day.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.